Welcome to a brand new week. We did it. We finally did it, brother Marco. We survived the summer. We survived the preseason. Welcome to the week that begins for the Montreal Canadiens. Up first, of course, the Starr and D'Amico show brought to you by cheapesttshirts.ca. It's your go-to for custom tees, hoodies, merchandise, Canadian-owned, fast shipping, no minimum orders, and unbeatable prices. Get yours today at cheapesttshirts.ca. That's where Marco gets his. That's where I get mine. And of course, your home away from home for the Montreal Canadiens is McLean's Pub. We'll be there live October 22nd from 7 to 8 p.m. You could be there anytime you want. 1210 Peel Street in downtown Montreal. And of course, a big shout out to Chuck and Evie, our friends at littlebearonline.com with curbside pickup and delivery. And of course, their amazing staff will take care of your pets because they care about them as much as you do, with great local foods and some of the best apparel and accessories from around the world. And we welcome in Catherine Prince. She's a certified real estate broker with Remax Platin. If you're thinking about buying or selling your home, South Shore, you want to be closer to the Montreal Canadiens, go check out Catherine Prince. That's Catherine with a K, catherineprince.ca. Call her at 514-702-2474. Marco, what is good, brother?
Man, is there a lot to talk about this week? I think just the fact that we survived the preseason, I think, is great. I think, thankfully, this is the last time we're ever going to see more than 4 preseason games played in a season. I think it's about time.
Amen, brother. Let's get into the topic du jour. Did you know the Montreal Canadiens have a secret weapon when it comes to contract negotiations? Dun, dun, dun. Marco D'Amico with the latest at RG Media. How can the Montreal Canadiens get creative with Lane Hutson's extension? Everybody's waiting for this. Jackson Lacombe, Luke Hughes. Here we are on this Monday talking about Lane Hutson. So let's get into this quickly here. What exactly do you mean by the Canadiens perhaps having a secret weapon in negotiations trying to extend Lane Hutson?
Yeah, so there's a few avenues that the Montreal Canadiens can take to keep the cap hit low while getting Lane Hutson more money than the players you just named. So I'll give you a direct example, right? Jackson Lacombe, like we can get into the business side of it, but let's just talk dollar amount, right? Jackson Lacombe, 8-year deal, $9 million salary. So just pure salary for the longevity of his contract. He plays in California, jock tax state, 52% tax. Think about that for a second. So on $9 million, he's probably walking away with like $4.4 million. Cool. If you're the Montreal Canadiens, there is a way where Lane Hutson can walk away with $1 million to $1.5 million more after tax than Jackson Lacombe if he were to sign the exact same dollar amount in Montreal. And that blew everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, Montreal, high taxes, this and that. Not so fast, ladies and gentlemen. So there are 2 things that we need to talk about. First, and we'll get to this, signing bonuses. So anybody who has access to Cap Friendly, if you want to learn more about this, or wow, Cap Friendly.
Yeah.
May they rest in peace. May they rest in peace.
To everyone.
either go to Puckpedia or Cap Wages.
Yeah.
And if you look at Noah Dobson's contract, remember that Noah Dobson was asking for almost $11 million from the New York Islanders and in his contract negotiations with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Exactly.
Why were the Montreal Canadiens able to bring him down? 2 reasons. 1, he wanted to come to Montreal. 2, they structured his contract differently. Now, if you go and look at his contract, the first 3 years of his contract, he has, I believe, $1 million in salary, but like $15 million in signing bonuses. Why is that? Well, if you are an American, or if you have American citizenship, or you have an American dwelling from a tax purposes perspective, and you have a signing bonus, that signing bonus is only taxed in Canada to 15%. And when you bring it back to the United States, you actually get a tax credit. So pure math, and I'll bore you the details. If you have a $10 million signing bonus, instead of walking away with $4.5 million, right? Because you get taxed at 52%, 53% on that. You're actually walking away with about 6, which makes, a world of difference. That's why you would expect a player to take a little less, because they actually have more take-home money. And so that's how you're able to negotiate someone making $10 million in California versus someone making $10 million in Canada. And so the easiest example I could give you guys is go look at Austin Matthews' contract.
Right.
Austin Matthews, $1 million salary, $15 million signing bonus every year for the 4 years, give or take, every year for the 4 years of his contract. Resident of Arizona, very, very low tax situation. So that's how the Maple Leafs were able to maximize his contract. And then they did the same thing with William Nylander's contract, where they gave him a very lengthy amount of signing bonus money. And what's very interesting with this, and it is only applicable to people that have US-based domiciles from a tax perspective that play in Canada, or vice versa, Canadians that play in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So it works that way, where you get you do get a tax benefit. The only thing to keep into consideration, obviously, Lane Hutson is American. So this could help him, especially if he, obviously being American, if he sets his domicile to like a Florida, right? Or,
even better.
Tennessee. Exactly.
Yeah.
The tax benefit
whatever.
is almost $2 million a year if he's making $9-10 million. So that's massive. This is a massive negotiation tactic that, from a pure dollars perspective, would make his $9 million contract much more valuable than Jackson Lacombs or Luke Hughes.
Hey guys, before we dive right back into Habs talk on the Starr and D'Amico show, a very quick shout out to a great friend of the show, Catherine Prince, certified real estate broker with Remax Platine. You can find her website right here at catherineprince.ca. That's Catherine with a K, prince.ca. So if you're thinking about buying or selling a home on the South Shore or anywhere in Greater Montreal, Catherine is the person you want in your corner. She's got the experience, the patience, and the people-first approach that makes the process smooth and stress-free. I love that her focus isn't just on transactions. It's also helping families through some of life's biggest moves, as you can see right here in the testimonials. It speaks for itself, does it not? Whether you're upsizing, downsizing, maybe you're moving closer to the Bell Center to be near the Montreal Canadiens, Catherine has you covered. You can check her out at catherineprince.ca. That's Catherine with a K, prince.ca. You can reach out to her, tell her you heard about her on this show, and you can contact her right here at Catherine with a K at catherineprince.com. Call her at 514-702-2474. Big shout out to friend of the show and a friend of yours, Catherine Prince. Now, back to the show. Well, it's interesting the way you break it down, and it's a good, it's a fascinating piece at rg.org, and we'll link it in the video description so you can have an in-depth, kind of dive into it and kind of absorb all the information. Go ahead.
If anybody reads it, have Tylenol close by.
Oh, yeah. When I read it, was it Friday morning you had it out? I think I read it Friday. I was like, oh boy, okay, got to read it. I'm going to have to read this again, right? That's just me. I'm not judging you. You do you. I'm good, right? But on a more serious note, my takeaway, even, listening to you kind of give us the Coles notes of the breakdown of it all, I'm still kind of surprised that they haven't come to an agreement. Here we are on this Monday. And look, money is money. Go get yours. I'm all about player empowerment,
Yeah.
And I wonder about when you kind of lay the groundwork for how can they make Lane Hutson feel extra special, if the money really is, not number one, but maybe the second priority for this young man, that there's a way that, let's say the base salary is $9 million or whatever the case may be, is our understanding is, despite what you read on Twitter and other social media outlets, $11-12 million, like, to me, I don't think he's not going to bust Noah Dobson's contract. I just don't see it anymore. But when you lay down the tax work and the take home, here I am again, still surprised. So are you at all surprised that Hutson and his management team and the Montreal Canadiens team that have been aggressively trying to get this done are still not over the finish line as of you and I recording this right now?
Yeah, they're the 5-yard line, as I think Elliot Friedman put it.
Yeah, right.
That's the best way to, you're at that point where the market, so just for everyone to understand, both parties were basically waiting to see where the market lay. And I think, Shaun and I have done a really thorough job over the summer because, let's face it, there wasn't that much else to talk about.
We tried, bro.
It was a grind, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
Thank
it
you for
was.
sticking around for that.
Yeah.
But we kind of went into detail about this, where we explained that, there's a new market. Obviously, I'm not this isn't news to anybody now that you've seen Kaprizov's deal, But
Yeah.
basically, everyone was kind of waiting for that. Now you're just seeing a waterfall of extensions coming in. You know, we saw McTavish sign, Luke Hughes sign, Lacombe sign the next day, Pat Brisson signing 2 monster defenseman deals back to back. Power to him. And then Gustafsson extends in Minnesota as well. You know, like now you're going to see them all come in hot and heavy, right? Because now we've set markets, we've set benchmarks. Well, that's what they were waiting on. And Lane Hutson, as an individual, wants this done as soon as possible. Doesn't want this over his head. His agencies obviously have to protect the player, right? Because sometimes, the player will want things that maybe, wouldn't be in his best interest, or that he may look back on in a couple of years and be like, damn, I was an idiot. Why didn't someone, caution me against taking this dumb deal? Well, that's what's going on here, right? So like, you just have to have smart agent or group of agents that are counseling you and that are looking out for your best interest. Do I think that Cortex is going to sit here and try to milk the Canadiens dry? Absolutely not. Agreed. And that's why everyone thinks, 11, 12 million, because on an open market situation, if he were to be an unrestricted free agent, of course he would be able to earn that amount. But he's a 10.2 CRFA, no ARB rights, no offer sheet, eligibility. The only leverage Lane Hutson has, and it's good leverage, that's why he's going to get paid, is on ice play. But from a contractual perspective, you can compare it to Luke Hughes, who had the whole Hughes family situation going on as extra leverage, or Jackson Lacombe, who's going to be 25 years old before his next deal kicked in and was far closer to being an unrestricted free agent. And, in my honest opinion, seeing from the comments online, probably the most underrated player in the National Hockey League at this point. Very different situations, because there's on ice evaluation. I don't think anybody's going to argue that Lane Hutson is the more flashy known defenseman. Jackson Lacombe actually had better underlying numbers than Lane Hutson. I think if he played in a market other than Anaheim, there would be a bigger deal about him. Team USA is aware of him, but I'm just saying, like in like Toronto, Montreal market, people would know him more if he played in a bigger market, because he is that big of a deal. All I got to say is Lane Hutson is in a different situation. And so people that are going 11, 12 million, that's not happening. I can assure you. In fact, I could tell you with absolute 100% confirmation, the Montreal Canadiens are not going there. This is staying in the single digits in terms of salary. Now it's a question of, and I've always said this, always a question of a couple $100,000 structure, this and that. And really, like, it's details, right? There's a lot of anxiety with fans about getting this done. And I understand that some fans are going to say, well, what anxiety? It's all the media is talking about it, buddy. My DMs on a daily basis, what's going on with Hutson? When is Hutson going to sign? Is very plentiful. That's why we do.
I mean, all the fan reaction, bro. All the fan reaction I see online is like, and I get it. I've been covering the Montreal Canadiens for 20 plus years. Like, and Montreal's, like any passionate market, they love their players, sometimes a little too much, and believing that, yes, you're crazy if you think he's going to sign for less than 12 million a year. Like, not so sure about that, but I get the passion, and I respect the passion, but it's why the Canadiens didn't have Jeff Gordon. Like, he's such a good manager.
But this also comes into the vetting of the players before they're drafted, right? This is like when we talk about when the Kent Hughes talks about drafting players that want to be in Montreal, it's not a gloss over comment. You're trying to build a team with players that are willing to take less to stay here. And I think that's the key. So, that brings us back to, how do they take less and still get bang for their buck? We talked about signing bonus. Now we also have to talk about what we call the RCA. Yeah. And for those, the RCA is a little bit more of a different beast. So this is the retirement compensation agreement. It's something that you use in Canada on a general basis. But basically what happens is you take 50% of your salary and you throw it in a trust. And I'm not going to bore you with all of the...
Well, the CRA gets involved now.
You know what? Not really, because the thing about the RCA is that instead of getting your entire $9 million salary taxed at a 53% rate, leaving you with about $4.23 million on that salary, by using an RCA, you defer the payment until the end of the contract.
Yeah.
And that investment is brought back to you. So you end up saving close to about $1.5 million again per season in that regard. So on the life of a contract, you're making 8 times 9, right? So that's 72 million. You're saving 9 million minimum, right?
Yes.
And if you go to the higher end, the 1.5, well, you're saving 12 million on 72. That's 16% of your salary that you have now saved by going through this method. The only difference with the RCA, the retirement compensation agreement, is you only have access to half of your money now.
Right.
But when the contract's over, right now, that's where this comes into consideration, because then if you once it comes to maturity and you pull it out of the trust, if you're based out of Florida, then you're paying significantly less taxes because you're going to be given what they call a foreign tax credit in the United States. Exactly. So that lowers it as well. So just to recap, make this very simple, okay? Signing bonuses, how you get access to it immediately, but at a lower rate, 15% in Canada, and then federal tax rate at a reduced rate in the United States. So if, for example, Lane Hutson were to go to Florida, instead of paying 53% tax on his salary, he'd end up paying something along the lines of 36% tax. If he were to go the signing bonus route. And what's really important with the signing bonus route is that the Canadiens are in a kind of situation where if Lane Hutson's if this were 2026, the Canadiens would only be able to give Lane Hutson a 60% share of signing bonuses within the life of his contract, because the new CBA is limiting that. So you're not going to be able to see contracts where they have very low salary, like $1 million in salary, and then $15 million in signing bonuses anymore. So if the Canadiens want to take advantage of that, they're in a Goldilocks zone right now where they could do that as we speak. Or you can go the RCA route, which most athletes do with high salary contracts. I think it's nothing new, but it's to bring it to light for fans that by going this way, and this is unique to Canada. So by going this way, you're actually able to pocket about 1.5 million a year deferred, so that you end up getting it at the end of this contract. But it's more money really for you at the end of the day. It's just you defer it into a trust that continuously grows.
And luckily for the Montreal Canadiens, as you know, several NHL insiders have put it, it sounds like they're first and goal, ready to punch it in. I don't envision a Derrick Henry scenario where he's got a little bit of case of the fumbleitis going on. I think this is successfully going to get over the goal line. And look, you know, I'm a huge fan of the Canadiens management staff. It seems, you know, from my perspective compared to others, this one's very different for a lot of reasons. And I like the fact that the Canadiens have a former power agent in Ken Hughes, a man who's helped, you know, build a couple of teams in Boston and New York, and Jeff Gorton, John Sedgwick, the general manager in Laval, who's their capologist before, you know, he took that assignment with the AHL squad. So they have all the right pieces on the chessboard. It's all about maneuverability, and it seems like they're right there. Keep it locked to this channel for the latest breaking news. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Wouldn't be surprised if you're watching D'Amico and Starr live for a Lane Hutson contract extension show. So on this week where the Montreal Canadiens begin, looks like things could be moving fast and furious. Set the notifications to this channel so you don't miss a thing. You can follow Marco D'Amico at D'Amico. Read all the latest at rg.org. And of course, we're getting ready for the Montreal Canadiens and Toronto Maple Leafs Wednesday from Toronto. Let the games begin.